You leave work with the direct route home glowing on your phone. GPS knows the fastest way. Your body doesn't listen. At the first familiar turn, you keep riding past it, toward the road that adds 40 minutes you don't technically have. To anyone watching, that looks inefficient, impulsive, maybe even avoidant, but you know something they don't. That longer route leaves you calmer than arriving early ever could. This isn't about scenery. Psychology explains what your mind is actually doing out there, and what it's trying to get back. Most people assume you take the long way to chase speed, or because you're avoiding something at home. That's the easy read. The real explanation is quieter. All day, you answer messages you didn't write, sit in meetings you didn't schedule, and follow routes other people chose for you. By the time you clock out, almost nothing about your day has been genuinely yours. Psychology calls what's missing autonomy, the sense that your actions are self-directed, not imposed. On a bike, that need stops being abstract. It becomes physical. You pick the turn. You control the pace. You respond to the road in real time with no one else's input. The extra sensory demand of riding also does something useful. It interrupts the mental replay of deadlines and half-finished conflicts, because your brain can't rehearse a work argument while it's tracking a blind curve. So those 40 extra minutes aren't wasted. They're a transition between the person your day required and the one you actually are. Here's the problem. The long way home is rarely free. It costs fuel, tire life. Sometimes an extra 30 minutes you'll owe someone later in the form of a cold dinner or a text that says, "Where are you?" People hear, "I needed a ride," and translate it into something less generous. Avoidance, not coming home. And sometimes, if you're honest, that read isn't entirely wrong. You may catch yourself wondering whether you're clearing your head or postponing a conversation waiting for you in the driveway. Take Marcus, a composite rider, not a documented case, but a familiar shape. At 28, he worked a warehouse floor where every movement was timed, every break scheduled, every mistake logged by a supervisor with a clipboard. He bought an old motorcycle nobody thought made sense. Friends warned him about repair costs. His partner asked why he needed another expense on top of everything else. The bike stalled. It leaked oil. It forced him to learn things he'd never had to know. Then one evening, after a longer route than usual, he pulled off at an overlook and realized something. He hadn't replayed his supervisor's voice in almost an hour. Nothing had been fixed, but it had stopped running the show. Here's the honest counterpoint, though. Riding turns unhealthy the moment you need more speed, more risk, more distance just to feel something or feel nothing. Riding does demand real attention and real physiological arousal. That doesn't make every ride calming, and fatigue combined with speed raises real crash risk. One version strengthens your life. The other slowly replaces it. The line shows up after you park. If the ride sends you back more present, more patient, more willing to face what's waiting, that's regulation. If it keeps helping you disappear instead, the road stops being an escape valve. It becomes the escape. The long way home feels different because it changes your role. Most of the day, you're reacting to schedules, supervisors, notifications, traffic, everyone else's timeline but your own. On the bike, your attention narrows to something smaller and sharper. Speed, balance, distance, sound, the next decision 2 seconds away. You're not checked out. You're intensely present, maybe more present than you've been all day. That heightened sensory load isn't incidental. Then comes the attachment. You remember specific roads because they hold specific transitions. The route you took the night of a breakup. The empty highway after a shift that broke something in you. The corner where fear slowly turned into competence, one pass at a time. The bike attaches to those memories because it wasn't just present for them, it required you. Every smooth downshift, every fault you repaired yourself, every controlled turn is evidence you can still influence what happens next. That's not vanity. That's autonomy. Not doing whatever you want, feeling that what you do is actually yours. And this is where it gets personal. The long route doesn't mean you hate home or responsibility or the life waiting for you at the end of the driveway. It means you need a deliberate way back into them. You're using movement to sort out what sitting still never could. So when someone tells you you're wasting time by skipping the fastest route, they're measuring the wrong thing entirely. You were never trying to arrive quickly. You were trying to arrive as yourself. If you've ever taken the long way home, you already know it was never really about the miles. Sometimes the road hands you back a version of yourself the day had buried under everything else. So tell me, what was the ride that changed something in you? The route, the machine, or the moment you realized you weren't ready to go home yet? Drop your story below. Subscribe if this made sense of something you'd never quite put into words.